All right, I think we're ready to roll.
You're listening to Words Like That with Cole Powell, a storytelling podcast. All right, folks, going to be answering some comments today. This is something that I used to do once a week on the Randomine Records YouTube channel. Now I'm going to try to start doing it once a month, answering comments on reaction videos from the Randomine Records channel or from podcast episodes, Words Like That podcast. This is primarily for viewers of my content, either the podcast or the YouTube channel, or both. And if that doesn't sound like something you're interested in, maybe you clicked on this video, you didn't know what it was, and now you know, and like, hey, I'm not really interested in this. Totally understand if you click off. Up first, we got a few comments from my reaction to Home Free's cover of Ray Stevens' Mississippi Squirrel Revival, which was this great animated video and great cover from acapella group Home Free. First up, Mom D612 says, Ray loved this so much he put it on Twitter. I got a couple of these comments that were letting me know that Ray Stevens was not only aware of Home Free's cover of his song, but he absolutely loved it and shared it. And I just think that that's got to be, for Home Free, for these big artists, particularly ones that are maybe influences and inspirations, to not only be aware of your content, maybe your cover of their songs, but to really enjoy and actively make it publicly known that, hey, I really thought this was cool, really enjoyed it. And in some cases, seeking out Home Free to collaborate, like maybe Kenny Rogers did. Just got to be such a great feeling for the artist. Up next, this is from EA Cole 72, and there's also a reply to that comment. I'm going to read both. Thank you for catching the animation style. It is one of the best parts of the video for me. This is in reference to the end of the video where I realized that there were a couple of characters that like George and Jane Jetson, and then I realized that the main kid character in that animated video had kind of been patterned after Bam Bam, maybe, and I was like, oh, I didn't even realize this was Hanna-Barbera, and there's a reason I didn't realize that the animation style was, until that moment, the animation style was inspired by Hanna-Barbera. And now I'm going to read this reply to that comment. This is from Thomas McDermott, and if I mispronounced that, I'm sorry. I think Cole missed the references to Recess and Rugrats. Maybe a little too old for that when he was a kid and too young to see those with his kids. Also, the lady getting baptized was Granny, the owner of Tweety Bird. Yeah, whenever I went back to edit that reaction video, I realized the reason I didn't pick up on the Hanna-Barbera is because other than the main kid, it didn't really come in there until those end characters, which is why I realized it at that moment. And I missed Granny. And as far as the Rugrats and Recess, yes, those went over my head, but not because it wasn't my generation. That was actually right in my generation. I was not a watcher of Rugrats. Reason number one, they were on Nickelodeon. We didn't have cable when I was growing up. We had 5 channels on the TV. We had an antenna, and 3 of those channels barely picked up. So I was only aware of Rugrats through advertising and merchandising, and if we'd go out of town, we were in a hotel and had cable, and it would get flipped on Nickelodeon. Maybe an episode would be running, but I actually never really wanted to watch it because I wasn't a fan of the animation style. As far as Recess, I did watch that one, but it was one of those shows for me. I watched it when there were no other cartoons on. So, and I enjoyed it, but it wasn't like one of my top favorites. So I just didn't pick up on either one of those in the animation style. All right, this is the last one from the Ray Stevens cover video. This is from Hallidan Enberg 1449. Sir, you are off the mark if you are calling Ray Stevens a comedian. While he is best known for his comedy music, he has a serious side as well. Songs like Misty, Everything is Beautiful, Sunday Morning Coming Down, Mr. Businessman, and his entire Frank Sinatra cover album titled Ray Stevens Sings Sinatra. Say what? He's also a songwriter and music producer for other artists. I suggest you go on YouTube and refresh your Ray Stevens memories by watching his show, Ray Stevens Cabaret Nashville, and visit his Cabaret Theater in Nashville before his last official live performance there. Yeah, all that's true. I appreciate that comment. All that's true. I knew most of that, I think, except the Sinatra cover album, which I now have to go check out because I love Ray Stevens and Frank Sinatra, so that just sounds right up my alley. So I got to go check that out. May do a reaction on it, who knows. But I do, however, stand by what I said in the video, that Ray Stevens is primarily a comedian, and not just because he's primarily known for his comedy, but also because that's what he does best. That's his sweet spot. I mentioned in the video that this is in reference to, I compared Ray Stevens to Roger Miller. Roger Miller also had some really funny songs material. Roger Miller was writing songs with humor and wit. Ray Stevens is writing comedy and putting them to music. And yeah, he did all these other things. And another song that wasn't in this list, which I realized that the list wasn't exhaustive here of non-comedy songs, but one that came to my mind was his cover of Turn Your Radio On, which is a gospel tune. Even though it's fun and peppy and upbeat, it's incredibly sincere. No comedy there. But what Ray Stevens is best at, what he's known for, what his sweet spot is his comedy. He's writing comedy routines and putting them to music. So I stand by my assertion in the video that Ray Stevens is first and foremost a comedian, even though he's a comedian through song. And maybe an analogy in another field, let's take Adam Sandler. Not that Adam Sandler and Ray Stevens are the same type of funny man, but Adam Sandler, he's done some dramatic roles, done a really good job. He produces, he writes, he's written some songs, sing songs, but nobody's going to argue that Adam Sandler isn't primarily a comedian, because that's his sweet spot, and most of the things that he does and is known for is in that realm. And I feel the same way about Ray Stevens, even though, yeah, two different types of funny men. So I stand by my analysis of Ray Stevens' comedy versus music. All right, up next, this is on the home free cover of Bonnie Raitt's Something to Talk About, which featured the debut of their new singer, the guy that replaced Austin Brown, Adam Bastien. This one is also from EA Cole 72. Adam Bastien sang with Home Free on a fill-in basis back when the A-Team was on the sing-off. He's a great fit with the group, both in personality and in sound. This gave them a chance to look for something new, which I'm grateful for. I felt like there was a bit of stale happening in the recent re-recordings. This gave Rob a chance to go low and Chance give us something to talk about. That was Bastien wailing and Chance to lip sync, but do you really think Chance couldn't do it if he wanted? While Tim and Rupp gave us the home free underbinning. Yeah, that was a really great analysis of this video. On the lip syncing, yeah, I had several people tell me in there that bit where it appeared to be Chance going really high falsetto there, and I made a comment on it. That was actually just them fooling around. It was actually Bastien doing it, and it was a joke that like Chance was doing it. But he may could actually do that because we know he's got an incredible range. Also, I see that Bastien is pronounced in parentheses. I had a couple of different people, not EA Cole here, but a couple of different people say in the comment section I had been pronouncing his name Bastien, and they were correcting me. It's not Bastien, it's Bastien. But all that did was show that they didn't finish the video before they commented, because if they'd actually watched the video past a certain point, they would have seen that I saw and heard Tim Faust at the end of the home free video introduced Adam Bastien and pronounced his name Bastien, and then I said, oh, it's pronounced Bastien. My apologies, I stand corrected. And then I said Bastien through the rest of the video. So it's just funny to me when people put something in the comments to correct me when I correct myself at some point in the video, and just goes to show you that they didn't actually watch the content before they opined. Although I do appreciate the spirit behind them trying to correct and help me get the name right. But still, a lot of times if you just watch the video all the way through, you don't have to make that correction. But anyway, here at the end though, this was the most interesting part of the comment to me, that there was something, a bit of stale happenings with what the comment said here in the recent re-recordings, and I can get that. I can see that perspective. I've enjoyed the re-recordings, and a lot of them I didn't know the original versions of the original home free versions, so I've gone back and listened and compared the two. One of the things I've said, some of the original versions I prefer because there's less processing and it sounds more organic as opposed to the new ones, but I don't really think that's what this comment is talking about here. I think it's more that the re-recordings, they're just redoing the same songs that they've already done 10 years ago. But I will say I would give them a pass on the re-recordings because the purpose of them isn't particularly artistic. It's more business. It's more about ownership, because what these re-recordings have done, I want to do a video on this. I want to talk about it. I may still do it on Taylor Swift doing the same thing, and then also kind of mention Home Free doing this. They didn't own the rights to those original versions, not the videos, from my understanding, and not the sound recordings. That was owned by the record label because they were under contract with Sony at the time. And the purpose for these re-recordings is not to do something new and fresh and different and artistic and unique. It's to basically just redo the versions they already did with a little bit more polished production, but more importantly, to do them and own the sound recordings and the videos so they can use them in whatever way they please and get all the royalties that they're due on this, which I think is great and a great idea. So I would give them a pass on the re-recordings, even if I didn't care for them. All right, up next, this is still on the same video, the debut of Bastien. I included this one because it's so rare that we get a negative comment on a home free video, particularly about the group. So I wanted to read this because if there's one person that feels this way, I'm sure there are more, even if it's a small minority. This is from Green Eyes 92061. Just wanted to see your reaction. I have listened to less than a handful of reactions to this new person. This is definitely not the home free that I fell in love with back in early 2016. Am I pitching a fit like a little kid? Nope, just don't like this new group or their sound. Not listening to or following Austin either. Hope they all get what they hope for from this change. I know that I'm in the very small minority, and that's okay. At my age, I know what I like and what I don't. Now, this is interesting, and that's everybody's entitled to their opinion. That's fair. Again, I'm sure there were other people that feel the same way. If you got one, you got more. But I do find this interesting because this is the first, to my knowledge, this is the first release with the new iteration, with Bastien, sans Austin, unless this person has seen them live because he's been performing live with them for the last couple of months. That's a possibility. But if it's just being based off this one video, first, I feel like the group sounded pretty much the same, except for the lack of Austin and Bastien now taking over that role. But as far as the arrangement and the rest of the backing vocals, I felt like pretty solid for what Home Free normally does. And I feel like that Austin could have done Bastien's part and they would have sounded just like they've been sounding for the last several years. So I feel like that's kind of an odd criticism for me anyway here. And I also find it a little odd that it's like, okay, I like this group with this iteration with Austin as the tenor. Obviously, they like Austin's voice, but now Austin's gone, and they've got a new tenor replacing him. And I don't like the sound of his voice. I don't like how it blends with the group. Okay, that's fine. But I also don't want to hear Austin singing by himself, even though I like that voice, without the rest of the group. That's just a little odd for me. Like I'm not really getting that perspective. So if there's anybody watching this that kind of feels the same way, let us know in the comments if you're just not feeling Bastien, or you miss Austin, or maybe it's just the combination together that's what has brought you to Home Free, and now that that combination is gone, you're not really interested because it has to be just the right ingredients. Let us know in the comments on this video. All right, up next, this is on the episode of the podcast I did on the Beatles Cinematic Universe. This was announced. Sam Mendes, phenomenal director, is directing 4 Beatles movies simultaneously. It's going to be a John movie, a Paul movie, a George movie, and a Ringo movie, and then they're supposed to be released sporadically throughout the same year. I think 2027 was the target year. And this is what this comment is addressing here. This is from KP Mac 1, who says, "This is an interesting idea, but I think 4 movies is going to create fatigue. I watch them all because I'm a huge Beatles fan, but casual movie goers may not want to hassle with it. Also, it feels like they're going to have to go with a release schedule in advance rather than releasing one and deciding if they want to release the next one in the same year or wait. Movie release schedules tend to be known a couple of years in advance. I guess we'll see." So the first part there, that's a valid potential criticism. It very well could be, and that's one of the things that I talked about in the video, that my concern was this is reminding me of Kevin Costner's recent move to do his movies, Horizon, An American Saga. Part 1 and 2 were scheduled to be released 6 weeks apart, and Part 1 came out and it did a major flop. And basically what he was doing is kind of trying to take television, which is really popular, the binge watch, and put it on screen, and it was kind of an ambitious idea, and this kind of sounds like the same type project. It sounds like maybe this would do better on streaming than in theaters. So maybe KP Mac is right here on that part. The second part, though, when he says that feels like they're going to have to go with a release schedule in advance, that's not necessarily true. And again, I'll use Horizon as an example. Part 1 and 2 were originally scheduled to come out 6 weeks apart. The first one flopped, so 4 weeks before Part 2 was supposed to be released, they pulled it. And as of last week, when I last looked, there are, or maybe the week before last, but recently, there has been no reschedule of release date except a film festival premiere, and then that's it. As far as a wide release, no word on that. And this happens all the time with release schedules well in advance, and then for some reason they move it, either because they have to do some reshoots, or there's another movie that's announced that they feel like is going to be released too close to their movie and they want to pull it out and give it some more time. Or in some cases, if a movie turns out better than anticipated and they think, hey, we may get some awards off of this, they may move it closer to the award season release window. And that's what I was talking about in this video, that maybe they will do that. The studio is going to do whatever they feel like is necessary for their bottom line. And if that means that they have all 4 movies set out to release over the course of a year, and the first one is maybe getting some Oscar buzz, and they're like, hey, we can maximize this because Oscar buzz equals more people going to see the movie, which equals more revenue. If they say, okay, maybe we can maximize our revenue here, we'll push the other one out so it can get buzz on the next award season and then boost its revenue, and so on and so forth. Or it could be an issue of the first one flops and they just pull it and either scrap it or throw them all on streaming, which looks like maybe what's going to end up with the Kevin Costner Horizon deal. We don't know yet, but that was my prediction. But as the commenter said here, we'll see. This is from the same video. This is one of those comments that just... Anyway, this is Kyle Stevens 4133. This is one of the dumbest ideas ever. Documentaries are better. Well, Kyle, yeah, it could be one of the dumbest ideas ever, unless it makes $1 billion, and then it's going to seem really smart. So, and it may not. It may flop. But as far as the idea of doing scripted movies for the Beatles and each one focusing on each member and it being by the same cast and interconnecting, it's actually, I feel like creatively that's pretty smart. Whether it's a good financial decision, that's yet to be seen. And as far as documentaries being better, I like documentaries. I watch them. The problem is very few people do. Very few people care. And if you want to tell the story, narrative allows, in some cases, to get the truth across better than just sitting there and telling the audience this is what happened to this person and showing footage and pictures and newspaper clippings and whatever. And a lot of people resonate with that better. It's able to connect with people better through narrative storytelling. I'm a bigger fan of narrative storytelling than I am documentaries, even though, yes, I love documentaries. I watched them. I watched the entire Beatles Anthology Extended DVD edition over like a week here a few years ago. I loved it, but I'm also going to go see this to see what the filmmakers bring out in the narrative form. All right. This is, I think this is from the Angelina Jordan video. It's not about Angelina, but this is about an issue, a production issue we had, and I do appreciate, we had a few of these comments. I wanted to read one of them. This is from Primordial Similarity 6262, who says, "Hey man, you have this very loud, annoying feedback going on with your recording of this. Just letting you know." I appreciate that, and I also appreciate you doing it with respect and civility, and all there were like maybe 3 or 4 total comments that pointed this out. And all of them were very respectful, very civil, and for the purposes of informing, helping us troubleshoot our content. And I really appreciate that. The issue with this is the fan, or was the fan on my laptop, which is what I'm having to use to make these videos now. And you can kind of hear it in some of the older videos, like from whenever I first switched. I don't remember how long ago that was, like 5 months ago or so. But the reason it's so prominent now is because I have completely, behind these scenes, have completely redone the setup here, the mic placement, the laptop placement, the surface that the computer's sitting on is now different, and it's just magnified the sound of the laptop. And with that particular video, which was one of the first videos that I had done with the new setup, I thought I had manipulated the EQ enough to dampen some of the annoying frequencies. At least I had gotten all the ones that were annoying to me without really affecting the quality of my vocal on the mic. But people perceive frequencies differently, and there are frequencies that maybe my ears hear and aren't annoyed by that other people's would be. And obviously that's the case, or we wouldn't have had 3 or 4 different people mention this in the comments, and those comments get a handful of likes. So obviously there was a section of our audience that heard it, and it wasn't just background white noise like it had become to me after I had applied some EQ. So what I've done moving forward, and you really don't get this on these type videos when I'm using the good mic and I'm not running the laptop with the screen on and recording because I'm doing reactions. Totally different ball of wax. But for those videos, for the reaction videos, whenever the computer is processing a lot of things at the same time, you're going to get that fan running. And I've taken measures to try to minimize that on future videos, actually on videos that we've done since we started getting these comments. I've changed the position. I've tried to get some pad in here to absorb some of the sound. And I also started scooping out a set of frequencies between 2K and 8K, which is where the most of the fan frequencies are left from where I had already kind of done some work. And it does negatively affect the sound of my voice. Unfortunately, I feel like it takes down some of the clarity, because that's where a lot of the clarity comes from, are those higher frequencies. But I feel like we've got it down. We haven't gotten any more of these comments since then, so I guess it worked. If it didn't, let me know in the comments, and I'll see what else I can do. And anything else you hear or see that you think is a nuisance, is an annoyance, let us know, because there's not really any point in me doing these videos if people aren't going to enjoy them, and if there's something like this that are preventing people from enjoying them, we need to fix that. So, again, appreciate all that, particularly that they were respectful and civil comments. All right, up next, this was on the Eagles lip syncing episode we did with our producer, Kyle Graves, one of my favorite episodes we've done so far. Unfortunately, it seems to have gotten a little hit behind the scenes with YouTube, and probably because of the subject matter, which is that the Eagles, Don Henley, who doesn't like people talking about his music or use his music on YouTube, has been caught lip syncing. Anyway, this comment is from BossFan49, who is one of our biggest supporters of the channel. I think I've actually got 3 comments from BossFan on here because they're just quality comments always, and he engages with our content a lot. BossFan says, I heard of several bands, artists using backing tracks, etc. for vocal or guitar, or both, and the reasoning they offer is the fans deserve a good show. Well, of course, but if you can't do it like you used to, then you should either make adjustments to the performance, like lower the key, hire a hotshot guitar player, or hang it up. The singer-songwriter type artists have the luxury of opting for a more simplified performance, altering the songs because their shows are more about personal expression rather than delivering a performance and replicating the studio cuts. Boss Fan, I agree with that 100%. Couldn't have said it better myself. Kyle and I touched on this in the video. I've also talked about this with a good friend of mine. It's like, all right, if your voice is older and you can't hit the notes anymore, lower the key. If you can hit them in a lower key, lower the key. Most people won't even be able to tell the difference. They'll just know that you got out there and you were able to hit the notes and you played the song that they liked and it sounded good. If you lip sync, you're not actually giving a good show, because that's not a show. A show requires real vocals and real instrumentation to be a show, unless it's specifically advertised as a pantomime show. If so, okay. Well, probably a lot of people aren't going to show up to that, obviously, which gets into what Kyle and I talked about on the podcast episode also, which is this is kind of fraudulent. And we had actually gone to an Eagles show. I walked out of that show. This was 6 years ago. I walked out of that show saying that was the best show I've ever seen. Now I think, or was it? Because it may have not have been an actual show. It may have been a pantomime, which is not a concert and certainly not what I paid my money to go see. So yeah, 100% agree with you there, Boss Fan. Up next, this is from Geoff Castellucci's cover of Marty Robbins' Big Iron. I had said in that I love when Geoff covers country western, classic country western songs that I grew up with, and I really wanted to hear him cover Johnny Horton, who's one of my favorite artists from that era in that style. And I mentioned North to Alaska. This is in response to that. This is Denali Cat, who is another great viewer of the channel. This has become my second favorite Geoff Castellucci song. Great reaction. I agree about Johnny Horton, even the Battle of New Orleans. Yep, Battle of New Orleans would also be a great one. I'd love to hear Geoff tackle that one. Up next, this is a random comment. I think this may have been on the Angelina Jordan reaction we did this month. This is Beach Bum Seaglass, who says, your twang is killer, bro. And a thumb up. I appreciate that, and I'm taking this as a legitimate compliment and not somebody being tongue-in-cheek trying to make fun of my accent, but even so, it's fine. But yeah, most people, I get high compliments on my southern twang, which is funny because compared to most people from around here, from my generation and back, like I'm basically a city slicker in my speech, which is kind of funny, but people that aren't from here, I sound super country. All right, up next, okay, this is another one from Boss Fan. This is on the same episode we talked about Kyle and I talked about the Eagles lip sync, and this is Aerosmith Retiring. And this was we clipped this out and put on YouTube. That's where this comment's from. Boss Fan says, those guys, talking about Aerosmith, are all 72 to 76. Tyler is the oldest, and he's lived the hardest, followed by Perry. So internal mileage-wise, they're almost 80. Fair enough. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, they are actually they've lived hard. They're actually internal age is probably a little higher, and it's a miracle they're still alive in a lot of ways, particularly how hard they did party back in the day. And I do hope Steven Tyler is able to recover, even if he's not able to recover to perform anymore, which apparently they don't believe that he's going to be able to do that, or he doesn't believe that. And he may be being advised by his doctors. But I know that's got to be hard, because as a singer myself, if my voice ever went and I wasn't going to be able to recapture what I've had for the last 50 whatever years, it'd be a tough pill to swallow. So I hope that everything works out for him and the group. And we talked about in that segment that maybe they didn't rule out making a new album, so maybe we can hear from them in studio. I just hope that it's organic and real and not some kind of manipulation if they go that direction. All right, up next, this is Maggie at Play, another one of our great patrons and supporters on YouTube. Huge shout out, because Maggie is constantly engaging with our content, commenting almost every video, which really helps the algorithm. Appreciate that so much, Maggie. This is from my reaction of Beetlejuice, which is the first non-concert film I reacted to. Really enjoyed doing it. Hope to do a lot more. I would have hoped to have already gotten some out, but I've just been strapped for time here. Maggie says, "Thanks, Cole. Your running commentary has helped considerably. I watched part of Beetlejuice circa 1990. I was totally confused. Now it is making a glimmer of sense." Appreciate it, Maggie. Yeah, I remembered you saying that Beetlejuice was not your cup of tea. And it is a weird one for sure. And even though it was not immediately like one of my favorite movies or anything, I did think it was really well done, and I did enjoy it. All right, up next, this is another one that was just fun. I think this also may have been from the Angelina Jordan video. This is from Bianfar. If I mispronounced that, my apologies. Who says, "I still think you sound like Cat Stevens." That's a good thing, by the way. I appreciate that. This is in reference to a comment from way back that this user had posted. And I do consider that a compliment. I think Cat Stevens is fantastic. Great voice, great artist. All right, this is going to be the last comment. This is another Boss fan, so this is a fitting way to close it. I had a little glitch here in my computer. This is on the segment Kyle and I did on CCR. I'm really having a banner year. I would call it a comeback, but it's kind of like that joke. They never left. They've just been quietly always being in the cultural consciousness. Or even if not, people are consciously aware they're there. They're always getting streams. They're always finding new fans. People always love CCR music. Boss Fan says, "Have you ever seen The Rain?" Music video features two actors who went on to star in The Boys. I'm sure that attracted a notable portion of the 555 million views on YouTube, 300 million more views than their next most popular video, and that video will be Fortunate Son. Boss Fan, maybe, but I will say this: if you go look at the Spotify numbers, which aren't going to have that video to draw people in. And I don't know who the other actor was. I know Jack Quaid was in the video and also in The Boys. I don't know who the other actor is, but on Spotify, Have You Ever Seen the Rain has 1.712 billion streams. Fortunate Son has 1.459, so you're looking at you're around 250 million views, which is comparable to the difference on YouTube. And Have You Ever Seen the Rain does not have the video component on Spotify for that to be a factor in why it has that many more views, why it has 1.7 billion and 255 million more, or 250 million more than Fortunate Son. And also, if you go to YouTube and go check out the original audio-only file that was uploaded in the early days of YouTube, 16 years ago, that version of Have You Ever Seen the Rain, just the audio with no video, has 261 million views. So, and that doesn't have the video factor with it, the Boys tie-in factor with it. It's just a picture of CCR standing there looking like CCR in the track. And also, as far as the boys go, I just don't see the numbers of boys viewers being able to impact something that's got that many views. You're getting into the 500 million views. The Boys season 4, 55 million viewers, which is a show record. Even if every one of those viewers, which they didn't, but if every one of those viewers went and watched the official version of Have You Ever Seen the Rain, because it had a couple of actors from the show in it, that still would have only been able to drive that up, to 450 whatever. If you take that away, you're still at 400 million views. So you could make the argument maybe that you had a few million that were drawn to check the video out on YouTube because of the Boys connection, and then they liked the song, so they went and streamed it on Spotify, added it to their list or whatever, and that's what drove it up so high on Spotify. But again, I don't think the numbers are there. But even if they were, there still had to be something in the music to connect with people and draw them in beyond the connection to the popular TV show. All right, that is going to do it for this episode of Answering Comments. I'm, again, going to try to keep this up, doing this once a month. We're going to be answering comments from YouTube. This week was exclusively YouTube. Last time I had a Patreon or 2 comment on there. Also, we have an email. You can email us. I'll put that on the bottom of the screen. And we've gotten a few emails here commenting on these episodes. I included one on the last episode. So anywhere that our content is, and I'm actually taking clips from this content and adapting them to kind of essays and put them on my website under the blog section. There's a comment section on there if you want to go comment on there. We had somebody comment on an old one of those here in the last month. So anywhere that you can find me, the content that I'm producing for Randomine Records channel or for my own stuff, there should be comments. If there are comments, feel free to comment. And if we like it, we will read it on air and respond to it. And that's going to do it. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.
Can't have no words like that.
Theme, Words Like That by Powell. Lead in by Ryan Purser. From Wicked Woman by Four Way Stop. Original cover photo by Kelly Bagwell. Recorded at Randomine Records. Section 107 of U.S. copyright law allows for the fair use of copyrighted material for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, parody, or research.